Peter King on the 49ers Talk podcast on NBC Sports Bay Area.
If you're Kyle Shanahan, you want to be fair, but you also have a Super Bowl ready team right now, and you can't be experimenting. You don't know if Trey Lance is your guy. You just don't. And so because you don't know he's your guy, what are you going to do? You just have to move forward. And look, you and I were kind of joking about it out at practice in terms of what's his next team if he does go. And even 5 years from now, is Trey Lance even going to be playing football? That's a question I would have, because we just haven't seen enough to know anything about what he can do.
A statement that no doubt is based on conversations he's had with people behind closed doors, but at the same time, I fully understand why it bothers people. Why would you question whether or not someone's going to be playing 5 years from now when you've only seen him start 4 games? There's fair and there's unfair sort of tucked into every single one of these conversations, I believe. Do you know what I mean? Like
I get what you're saying, well, but look, to me, fair and unfair has no real place in pro sports.
No, it does, or anywhere else for that matter.
Sure.
It doesn't really exist. But the bottom line is he's only started 4 games. The other bottom line is he hadn't forced his way onto the field. And that's on you. That's on any individual. Right? So, what do you all think? Eduardo and Hayward with Willard and Dibs. Hey, Eduardo, what you doing?
How's it going, guys? Love the show.
Thank you.
I love the conversation. I'm a Rams fan, but I love all you Niner fans. I've tailgated with you guys many times, nothing but respect. And I think Trey Lance would look good in a Rams uniform. Think about Matthew Stafford is old. He's got back problems. We need a quarterback.
Well, you do need a quarterback. Are you not into Stetson Bennett, who's had an interesting preseason, Eduardo?
I mean, he's interesting, but he's not my type of guy. I like that Trey Lance. I don't know. There's something about him. I like him.
I'd love
interesting.
Can we hear that, Eduardo? There's something that you like, and genuine question. There's something you like about him. What is it? What do you see?
I don't know. I mean, like they were saying earlier, he's out there throwing. When he comes down, he's pretty good. I don't know. You guys talk about him a lot. It's got him in my blood. I want to see what he can do with the Rams.
Yeah.
Nice, Eduardo. I appreciate that.
I will say this. Eduardo, thanks. I will say this. My guy Ephraim on Sunday nights.
Yeah.
He won't tell me
Is he a Rams fan? Or
No, but he lives down there, obviously.
Yeah.
He won't tell me. I can tell he knows something, and he won't
about
tell
the
me.
Rams.
He's convinced that the Rams are all in on Caleb Williams.
Right, so they're going to tank.
But, what does that look like? Matt Stafford is there. Aaron Donald is there. Cooper Kupp is there. Sean McVay is there.
Can't stop Kupp or Coop.
No, it's not a team that's going to be great, but if they are healthy and they play well, they're not a joke. They're not a 3-win team.
Well, they're better than Arizona, and just look at their schedule. Sure. I mean, I would have them as better than Arizona.
I agree.
And I'm sure that their over/under win total is probably 7.5.
I want to say it was 6.5. I'll look it up.
So, I mean, to the point of, they're not a joke. I don't know how many teams in the NFL are actually, quote unquote, a joke.
6.5 confirmed.
Yeah.
Is their win total
6.5. I had it at 7.5, so I would bet 6.5 makes it a little tougher, but you have to look at their schedule and look at the stack of games to see exactly what that means. But I don't think that there are a lot of teams. I mean, I'm trying to think who's the biggest joke in the NFL in terms of.
Okay, maybe that's not the right word, but who's
the
who's going
to be 2-15?
Yeah, who's the favorite for number 1 overall pick in the draft?
Well, you'd have to look at some of these teams with the rookie quarterbacks, right? You've got Indianapolis, or you've got Carolina, you've got Houston going with C.J. Stroud. You've got a handful of teams going with young quarterbacks.
I can tell you who has the lowest win total from Vegas. Wouldn't that tell us who's favored to be the number 1 picker next year? I think those Cardinals that you just mentioned do have, indeed, the lowest win total. Yeah, confirmed at 4.5. That's the lowest win total number in Vegas.
Right. And that's an interesting one because they are so deeply invested in Kyler Murray. Whether they like him or not, they're on the hook for Kyler Murray until 2028, I believe.
Yeah.
So even if they did get the first overall, and Caleb Williams is sitting there, you would have to expect them to make a trade to get out of that spot.
Buccaneers are 6.5. Panthers are even at 7.5. Part of the reason that the win totals for those teams in that division are what they are is because they're in that division. You know what I mean? Like Lucas was talking about before the show, like why is the Falcons win total, why is it at 8.5? I'm like, well, because they get 6 games against the other teams in that division.
Yeah.
And they're going to win some of them. Right? Like, yeah. Like that's a sucker bet to me. Like, I totally think the Falcons could win 9 games.
Yes, they could, and that's why their win total has gone up more than any other team in the NFL, because they're a team that many people are high on, and you mentioned their division, which is it's pretty bad.
Oh, my gosh.
One of the worst in if not the worst, in the NFL. So that definitely plays into it. But to Ephraim's point about, the Rams, and he won't tell you who's whispering in his ear about it. Some team, and I don't know how quickly you decide to pull up stakes on a year, but all eyes on Caleb Williams out of USC. And, I mean, is he really a generational talent? And if you think that he is, then it's absolutely worth it to take a whole year.
Yeah, I don't know how that looks, but there's something going on with the plan there. And Matt Stafford's situation has been the most mysterious, quietest in the NFL since the beginning of last year. Whispers about his back, and then he gets hurt, and he's just like, oh, he'll be gone for a month, and he's just like gone forever, and he never comes back. And then the Rams draft a QB, but then they're like, no, Matt Stafford, that's our quarterback. And you're like, is it? Yeah, Matt Stafford's our quarterback. So what's going on with him? Nothing. Like, why? You know what I mean?
Plus, Sean McVay signs an extension when everyone thought that he was going to go do TV.
But Aaron Donald is going to retire, or flirted with it last year. There's just something mysterious going on there where it almost feels evasive.
Yeah.
The conversation about the future of the Rams.
And they took Stetson Bennett in the 4th round, so that's not the kind of investment that you're totally sold on him.
But it's not Mr. Irrelevant either.
Yeah.
It's like, that's sort of the curiosity spot. Like, 1st and 2nd round is we're planning for the future. 5, 6, 7 round is like, well, let's take a flyer. Here's a quarterback. But I do feel like, 3rd and 4th round is like, maybe. Okay.
For sure.
We like you. Like C.J. Beathard. It was right?
Yeah.
No, that's what he thought. It wasn't like you're our future, but he's like
Jeff Driscoll also was one of those guys.
You're interesting to us. I wonder if that might go that way.
Right.
It's kind of the 3rd and 4th round. I feel like
and then what's the 7th round though? When that's
a flyer.
It's a total flyer on Brock Purdy.
And you're like, it's quarterback, so if you get a good one, we just struck gold. So like might as well. I would tell every NFL team, if there's anyone you like at all at that position in the 6th and 7th round, grab them every year because they're so valuable. And again,
if they hit,
if they even look good for 2 games, somebody will give you a 1st round pick for them, So anyway, Big Smooth is in Oakland and next up with us here on Willard and Dibs. Hey, Big Smooth, thank you for the call. What's up?
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
I'm just listening to your show, enjoying it thoroughly. Great conversation. It's interesting to hear Peter King when he says he doesn't know if he's going to be in the league. Meanwhile, we just talked about Matt Barkley. My goodness. Who knows? Jimmy Clausen, who Peter King had glowing reviews about, probably is still in the league somewhere. Who knows? But I guarantee you a nickel. Well, I won't guarantee you, but I would bet you a nickel that if Trey gets let go, he will not get as many opportunities to show he can play as, say, for example, Mitchell Trubisky or Sam Darnold. Listen, guys, elephant in the room is this. A black quarterback has to work harder, has to be better, has to be like a freak of nature, like a Michael Vick or Richardson, because he's not going to get 2 and 3 chances like some of the other names you just named. That is the truth, whether we want to agree with it or not, whether we want to accept it or not. It sucks for Trey, but life isn't fair. It sucks for Trey that he never. Listen, I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember. Terry Bradshaw sucked for about 2 years. There was a black quarterback on the team that was better than him. His name was Joe Gilliam. Joe Gilliam wasn't going to get a shot, and wasn't it Poland from Indianapolis who was basically saying that Lamar Jackson should go into camp as a quarterback?
He should be a receiver.
These things don't feel good, there's a little bitterness when we constantly hear things like that, and we got to outplay the next guy. And listen, Purdy is clearly the better quarterback. I'll give you that. What I'm saying is Trey's not getting 2 or 3 chances.
Okay, Big Smooth, I'm going to split the difference on your point because I'm certainly not going to deny racism, good God. Right? Yes. However, I'll also say this. One example you bring up with the Steelers from the Bradshaw era, the world has definitely changed. You have to do less convincing now in 2023 with the whole black quarterback thing. Half the league has a black quarterback as a starter, it seems. Almost half the league. So I don't think there's as much of a stigma. I think that you're right. It still exists to a certain degree. However, I can also give you a bunch of examples. I think it depends on what you're viewing Trey to do. If you're talking about Trey being a starter, I'm going to agree with you. He probably will not get the chances you wish he could have or that maybe even he, quote, deserves. But if you're simply talking about being on a roster or being a backup, listen, if he plays well, the opportunities are going to be there. You want to know who the best example is? It's the guy who ended up playing in the NFC title game for the Niners last year. Go to Josh Johnson's Wikipedia page, okay?
Played for a lot of teams.
He's still in the league now. He's 37, and he's on the Ravens.
Threw a pick on Friday night.
Threw a couple touchdowns, too.
Yeah.
By the way, Josh Johnson, listen to this. I'm on his Wikipedia page right now. Watch this. It started in 2008. Buccaneers, 49ers, Sacramento Mountain Lions, Cleveland Browns, Cincinnati Bengals, 49ers, Bengals, Jets, Colts, Bills, Ravens, Giants, Texans, Raiders, Redskins, Fleet, San Diego Fleet, Detroit Lions, LA Wildcats, 49ers, New York Jets, Baltimore Ravens, Denver Broncos, 49ers, Baltimore Ravens.
That's all?
That's how many chances, if you want to call them that he's been given.
Well, chances as a QB3 for the most part, QB4.
But Peters King, his statement was, is he in the league? If Trey Lance, again, two different things here. If we're talking about being a starter, I'm going to agree. I think it's been a bummer. I'm not going to use the word unfair. It's been unfortunate for Trey. It has been unforeseen. It's not been ideal. Is he going to get another shot to have someone really say, dude, you're our starter, and we're going to ride with you? Probably not. And that is unfortunate for Trey, unless he plays his way into it.
Well, unless he goes to the team where they have a quarterback situation where he has a chance to go in and compete for it. Because there are a number of teams right now that he could walk in there, and if it was a competition, you can't tell me that he can't go to Tampa Bay right now and maybe beat out Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask if given an opportunity in Tampa Bay. Jameis Winston's a guy who's gotten additional chances, and Geno Smith has gotten additional chances. So I appreciate Big Smooth and his sentiment, and I'm not saying that he's wrong, and I do know that it's tougher for black quarterbacks in any era than it is for white quarterbacks, but I do believe now you have a greater opportunity. I think that the stigma that Gilliam went through in Pittsburgh and Warren Moon and many other quarterbacks.
It's not the same.
It's not the same era in terms of, ownership and GMs and coaches having an expectation that you can't do the job. That's all. That part of it's gone. Whether or not you can get a second chance or not, I do think you have a greater opportunity now. But what I look at is what you were laying out earlier in terms of experience level. When you go to get that second opportunity, how much experience do you already have versus Trey Lance, who would go into a new position relatively cold? These teams don't have a lot of tape on him, so if he does leave the Niners and he goes to whatever team, they're not going to be able to look at a body of work in terms of knowing what he can do.
I'm looking at the league right now. I got 12 starting quarterbacks. 12 of the starting quarterbacks are black. So
12 of the 32.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So is the stigma the same as the Terry Bradshaw? It's not even close.
No.
It's not even close. But you say, is it more difficult for a black quarterback? It's more difficult for a black anything.
Right. But in terms of second chances is what Big Smooth was saying.
Right. But again, if our framework is he in the league, then that's a much, much lower bar. Here's where I'm going to end up not feeling bad for Trey. I don't think you're owed just because you're the number 3 pick in the draft. That's not anything. I mean, you achieved that in college, I guess. You were assessed as a first rounder and someone picked you. That does not mean you are owed some huge wide lane to be a starter in the NFL. You still need to go earn it. I'm going to feel bad for Trey based on injuries and circumstance. But I'm certainly not going to feel bad for Trey if he's given another chance and that chance calls for him to win the job as opposed to being given the job. Do you know what I mean by that?
That's what this job called for, that this job was not given to him.
No, but normally when you're the 3rd overall pick, it is.
Right, but we went through this before.
This is unique.
If you want to go through the top of the draft for the past 10 years, it's very rare that a winning team has a pick in the top of the draft and that team that is ready to win uses that pick on a quarterback. It's almost unheard of. The Niners were in a situation, and they didn't have that pick. They traded up to get that pick, and that tells you exactly how they felt about Jimmy Garoppolo, and it also tells you what they thought Trey Lance could be. And they haven't given up on Trey Lance, and I don't expect that they will. They might between now and cut down day, which is now less than a week away. It's a week from today at 1 o'clock, and I don't think that they're going to cut Trey Lance. I'd put that at about 1% chance, if that.
Yeah, I don't even know.
And I would say
that.
there's only about a 20%, maybe a less than 20% chance that they trade him. It's probably closer to a 5 to 10% chance that they trade Trey Lance. They probably are going to ride with him.
Yeah,
they're going to ride with him at least until the deadline on Halloween. Most likely, they ride with him until the end of the year. And then next February or March, they're going to be faced with the same question they were faced with this year.
Is it fair? Is it unfortunate? Whatever you want to say about it, I look at it this way. Here's the deal for Trey going forward. He's going to have to earn his way onto the field. He's going to have to grab someone's attention and, as I say it, force his way onto the field. And you know what? That's okay. That's totally okay. In many ways, that's the way it should be, right? We all want politics out of these conversations. You don't want Trey Lance to only be the starter because he's the 3rd pick. You want him to be the starter because he was the 3rd pick and the Niners were right in assessing him, and then he gets the job and he's awesome with it. That was everybody's hope, and it flatly has not been that. So I think he's definitely going to get more chances, whether it's with the 49ers or someone else. But the deal for Trey now is when you get that chance or those chances, you have got to play well. You got to look good. And if you do, this league, my God, if you just look a little bit good at quarterback, they will wrap their arms around you. No matter what color you are. Everybody's dying for a quarterback. I mean, at any given time in the league, how many teams are like super happy with their QB?
Probably half.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe.
half to maybe a little bit more. And we could go through the league, and even in the division, like, are the Seahawks super happy with Geno Smith? For now, they are.
I think for now. Like,
they didn't give him a super long-term deal.
He's not a long-term
Is Arizona
answer.
super happy with Kyler Murray?
No.
And are the Rams super happy with Matthew Stafford?
They were.
No. Yeah. They were when he won the Super Bowl, but he's not going to be around for 5 years. So, to me, being super happy means you either signed him to a long-term deal or are going to sign him to a long-term deal. Even Denver and Russell Wilson, are they super happy with Russ? Well, we'll see. We'll see how this year goes.
I'm looking at this right now. Are there any divisions where you would say 4 yeses?
On super happy?
Everybody loves their quarterback.
AFC East is a no.
The answer's no.
New England. AFC South.
Nope.
I mean, you got
Tennessee.
Tennessee. They love Tannehill down there.
Tennessee. A drafted quarterback.
Indy's got a rookie. Years. Houston's got a rookie.
And Jacksonville's a hard yes.
Yeah, Jacksonville's an absolute yes.
AFC West.
Is
Garoppolo, move on.
There you go.
Yep.
The Chargers and the Chiefs are yeses. The Broncos are probably a yes, although he's quietly 35 now.
I don't know if they are.
He's up there. Well, we'll see how well they play.
And then AFC North is Pittsburgh, so no.
Right. And Kenny Pickett.
Cleveland's but these are questions. My point is, like,
sure.
Are you like, we got our guy?
Cleveland's got their guy.
Well, maybe.
They paid their guy.
Paid for their guy.
Got their guy.
He hasn't played well enough to be their guy. We'll see if he looks like his former self this year.
Right. Last year he started playing better, but last year was a little bit of an odd one where he didn't hit the ground running. He missed a bunch of games early.
I mean, I get the NFC East in the moment. It's like, well, they've paid Dak, they've paid Danny Dimes, they've paid Jalen Hurts, and at least for the moment, after yesterday's preseason performance, Washington is like, Howell's going to be a star. But you can't say that till it happens.
Right.
So he's never played.
Hype.
He's never played.
But that would be the closest division, probably.
It's the closest.
Because the NFC North, maybe Justin Fields, they're starting to love on him. Cousins is going to be a free agent.
And Jordan Love has never played.
Yeah.
He's never even been a starter.
Jared Goff is looking good in Detroit.
NFC South, I don't know if anybody likes their quarterback.
True.
And we started with the West. So, no.
No division has all, we love our QB. To your point about Trey Lance, and I think he has popped, but he's also fizzled at the same time. And that's where, if you're another team out there looking to acquire Trey Lance, becomes a bit of a sticky wicket because you've seen the upside, but you've also seen the downside, and you haven't really seen what he would be like over the course of 17 weeks.
Mark in Oakland is next up here with Willie and Dibby. Hi, Mark. What you doing?
Hey, how's it going? I'm just driving home from work. And it's an interesting subject that caller brought up about the racism, because it got me trying to just level with myself and think, do I still hold on to conditioned biases and things? I'm white, Caucasian. And at first I was like, actually, it's the opposite for me, but then it led me to seeing that caller's point. Right now, if I see a white quarterback, I think he could be good in the pocket and probably not that athletic. And then I see black quarterbacks, and I think they could be good at everything because I've seen it. So it's almost like this other version where, and I'm just being open and honest right now, I'll be like, the white quarterback's it's very unlikely that they're going to be able to use their athleticism. So that makes me think, okay, I'm not seeing it another way. But athleticism isn't developed as much as being a pocket passer. And usually, regardless of race, a pocket passer is more often going to win a Super Bowl, it looks like. That's just what it seems like. You've got to be able to do that. You can't get around on athleticism for that long. The league usually figures out your tendencies and starts to shut that down. So I could see how what he was saying, if someone gets branded, they rely on their athleticism, and it's almost like because they're better at it, they get not developed the same way.
Okay, Mark, I think you just touched on it right there. For me, that's where this conversation goes, and it's quote unquote, do you rely on your athleticism? Because what is a pocket passer? Is Patrick Mahomes a pocket passer? He can do that.
Right.
He can also spin around and do whirlabouts and freak out and jump over the sideline. And he's just crazy out there. But he doesn't rely on the athleticism. This is the conversation that Lamar Jackson deals with. RG3 dealt with it. And I'll tell you who, and because he comes up so much because the Niners opted not to draft him, this year will be that referendum on Justin Fields. We know you can run, but can you also deliver from the pocket? If he can, he's going to be a star. But I think where the racism for me now lies is in that question, where when we see someone, Lamar or Justin Fields, run, we assume that means they rely on athleticism and they're not good in the pocket. Lamar Jackson has also been good in the pocket. Not Mahomesian, if you will, but Lamar has won an MVP. And you cannot do that in the NFL only with your legs. So to me, that's where it sits. When a black quarterback is fast, we immediately go, okay, well, he relies on his legs. There are plenty of black quarterbacks who have been doing both for a long time. Hell, Russell Wilson has been causing nightmares here in this town for a long time because he can do both.
Warren Moon, Dante Culpepper, guys who were able to do both, make plays from the pocket. It's interesting about Patrick Mahomes because the highlights and all we see of Mahomes are these underhanded, out-of-the-pocket impromptu plays, but he does do a ton inside the pocket, and that's where Trey Lance and any quarterback has to prove, because if you look at the history of quarterbacks who win the Super Bowl, the majority of them, or almost all of them, are guys who are able to win from the pocket. And that's the old adage, and I believe it in the NFL in terms of what kind of a quarterback. So Trey Lance can make plays with his legs, maybe not as many plays as we thought that he was going to be able to make.
No doubt.
He has to be able to make plays, especially in the Shanahan offense. He has to be able to get the plays in, digest it, and make throws from in the pocket in order to be successful.
I mean, look, over the last, go back 3-4 years from now and go, okay, who was quicker to leave the pocket when things got crazy? Mahomes or Allen?
Yeah, it was Josh Allen.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. Josh Allen was the one who did the, I'm going to take off and run because I don't see anything.
Well, that's a lot of young quarterbacks. They do that. And you make an interesting point about Justin Fields because he has been so good at that, and it becomes almost addictive as a quarterback because when you break containment like that and you are such a good athlete, you get positive plays out of it. But when you rely on it too much and you don't have the ability to make plays in the pocket or you choose not to, then you get branded a certain way.